Hey friends, welcome back to the show. Today we are on location in West Melbourne, Florida on a recall on myself. Let's go take a look. There she is. All right, so all of our stuff went together well. We didn't have a problem with that. Let me show you where the leak happened. Down here in this compartment, see all that rust and water and stuff? Well, we're gonna get rid of all that stuff. It was leaking out of here big time. And as you can see, I'm draining the heater right now. Now, like you've heard me say before, I work on a lot of water heaters, so I've gotten really good at them. And I take my time and I get very few callbacks, recalls, all that stuff. But once in a blue moon, you end up getting a recall on one. Let me explain to you what happens with these water heaters. Like a lot of products, water heaters are no different. They're mass produced. And especially in this brand, Rheem is very popular and stuff. But in the factory, just like all factories, they have quality control, but there's no way for the quality control to check every single one of the heaters. They pull like 1 out of every 20 that come down the line, and they check them because everything's supposed to be uniformal. And then some of them, every once in a while, slip through the cracks that have a problem. Let me show you what happened with this water heater and why he had a leak. This is the lower element. Take a look. Look at that rubber seal. Look how it's buckled. See that? Yeah, when it got screwed in, it buckled back on itself and never sealed. We didn't catch that. It didn't leak when we were here yesterday. That's why we had a failure on here. It was a factory failure. So on top of this, I'm going to show you how we go about replacing something like that and cleaning this mess up without having to replace a whole heater. There's some of you guys out there that would say, well, just go ahead and get a wrench up inside there and yank them babies out with the water still full in the tank. You're not going to lose very much. That's not always true, because you can sometimes have a very difficult time getting the old element out and putting a new one in. And by the time that happens, you got 15 gallons of water all over the floor. So we've opted to drain this tank down because it is a lower element that's leaking. And as soon as this gets drained down, I'm going to show you how to replace that. Now, there's nothing wrong with this element. It's just the seal got put in there wrong. So I suppose I could probably just take that out and reseal that, but we're not going to do that. It's already got rust on it just from 24 hours of being in here. And on these rings, I'm pretty sure that the lower element is a double looped element, but that's not what we're putting back in here. We also need to watch the rating of how many watts and stuff that is. A lot of times you can find that right up here on the panel and tell you lower elements are rated 4,500, phase 133.80. All right, so I think that's what we have, what we're going to replace with. This is just a single looped, as you see, element, lower element. But if you look right there, 4,500 watts, 240 volt. So this is going to work. But like when you see me pull the element that's in here from the factory, it's a double looped deal that comes back like that. But that doesn't make any difference because this is rated for the same thing. Failed on there is when they tightened this thing down, it looped itself up and never made a seal. That's how it caused flooding the garage from the factory. It got by quality control and they didn't catch it, and we installed it with confidence that we bought a good product. But you know what? Everything man-made is subject to fail. Like I always do when I talk to a customer and install things and stuff, I always troubleshoot with them and let them know what to do in an emergency. So he was alert enough when he saw water to go ahead and turn the water off to the heater and clip off the power to it as well. All right, so not only did that leak cause the rust around that area in that compartment, but it also rusted out the ports on my thermostat that are in that compartment as well. While we're here, before I leave, I'm going to open up the top compartment, which has another element and a thermostat, and we're going to inspect that as well. Let me show you the proper tool needed to take that element out of there. Right there. Hot water heater universal element wrench, hex in. It's going to go on the front head of that element. And if you look, it's got 2 holes on it as well. That way you can take like a screwdriver, you can slide it up through there. Now you got a T-handle and some leverage to turn that thing out or to put it back in. Water heater element wrench. Before you start working on anything with this heater, always make sure to go over and flip the breaker off and have a multimeter ready to make sure there's no current going into that water heater. And never trust anybody that says everything's off without testing it for yourself. All right, we're gonna take the panel off the top compartment here, and we're gonna check just to make sure there's no problems up here either. Upper thermostat and element. Nice and easy. We'll put our test leads right on those two top ones right there. Make sure we got no power. All right, looks like we're in the clear. Let's inspect this compartment and make sure there's nothing else. All right, everything else looks pretty good in here. See how that element, that rubber seal sealed properly, unlike the one at the bottom. So everything looks good, so we know that the leak didn't come from up top. All right, back down here, we're gonna replace that element right there. I've got one that's exact match for it. See in just 24 hours how much damage that is. I can't leave any of that crap in here, so that's all, both of them are gonna get replaced. Let's go ahead and take that thermostat out and replace it with a new one. Now, if you look at it closely, there's two wires. You got one that's coming from up top and one that's going down here. So take those two off, remember which one goes where. If you can't remember, take a picture of it so you can use it as a reference. All right, top wire, bottom wire. Now, if you see how these thermostats are set in, they're clipped in from retention clips. I'll explain that to you in a second. At this point, you're probably gonna end up needing to get like a flathead screwdriver and pull that away enough to pop that thing loose. All right, so let me explain to you how a thermostat and a water heater works. This is the back side of that thermostat. That is the sensor. All right, let's pan over and let me show you the heater. These two clips are under tension. They're meant to hold that thermostat into place. All right, and you want this thing to be flat up against the inside of that tank. If not, and you bend these clips back too far, that thermostat won't have an accurate reading. It will not seat itself up against the tank properly, which will cause it so you won't have that thermostat working and giving off the proper reading. So always be careful pulling them out. Don't ever overbend these clips out. There is our replacement, exact same thing. That's the one that came out of a brand new heater, and that element leaked, and that's what it made it look like in under 24 hours. So same thing in reverse. Let's go ahead and pop this thing back into place. Don't mess with the temperature. Set at 125 from the factory. Hook our two wires up. By then, our heater should be drained, and we can replace that element. There's one. I have to take it. There you go. Get that second one down into place until it clips itself. Hard to do one-handed. Let's see if that pops into place. There it goes. See that? Both the clips on the dog ears without bending those things out like crazy. Top wire, top screw. Bottom wire, bottom screw. Oops. Watch doing that. See that line came off there. We're gonna have to get that back into place. Where it goes. Make sure it seats properly. Take your time, there's no rush. Nice and easy. Go ahead and take the wires off of the element, the lower element. Just like that. Black one on that side, pull it off to the side. Red one, do the same thing, take your time. All right, we're getting ready to pull that baby out. Because that water flooded out that compartment, I went ahead as soon as I got here and I took the panel off as well as the two pieces of foam, squeezed them out real good. They've been sitting out here in the sun for, I've been here almost an hour now, so those are dried out. Water is drained out of there and a little bit of foam that's in there. The last thing we want to happen is to get this all put back together and trap moisture in that compartment, causing that stuff to rust prematurely. All right, time for us to get this lower heating element out of this heater. All right, it's coming out decent. Don't always come out very easy. This is a new water heater, like I said. Nice and easy. All right, here we go. There's that rubber seal that buckled up on itself. You can see it or not, but it's got a little bit of a boogered mark on there. There's that gasket that came off there. See how it's deformed? It got boogered up from the factory. Came off of that. Yeah, it's no good. Let's see. Look at that mark down in there. Let's go ahead and put the new element in. Make sure before you install the new element that this rubber seal, this gasket, is all the way up to the top, and the rating is the exact same rating as this 4,500 watts. Let's put it in. Nice seal on there. Make sure it all seats down perfectly right there. Then take your element wrench, tighten it down and snug it real good. Reinstall the wiring properly on here. Everything's attached. We're going to put those little pieces of foam back in here with our little plate that covers this and our panel and fill this thing back up full of water. All right, heater full, no leaks, replaced parts. So we were able to save this all up. Time to button this up, hit the power on, and head out. All right, so the job is done, and I turned the power on, and I wasn't hearing any noise. Come to find out that the upper thermostat had fried out on there, so we ended up replacing both of them. Good thing that I took my instincts and replaced that, or else I'd been called back to come back out because the customer wouldn't have had any hot water. The job is done, water's heating, and no more leaks. Well, hey, that's all the time we got for this one. Thanks so much for hanging out and watching the video. Listen, problems can happen directly from the factory, so be mindful. Never seen anything like that happen exactly the way it did, so it doesn't make it so I feel as though I need to inspect them compartments every single time. That was a rare one, but things do happen. And that's how you replace an element and thermostat on a water heater and stuff. And one thermostat burning out can blow out the top one, or vice versa. It's always a good idea when it comes to electrical and water hitting it to test all of your connections before we leave. If not, you'll be on a recall coming back. Got any questions or comments, leave them down below, and don't forget to keep plumbing.